Today we shall continue on the Anguttara Nikaya book of Tenets. Now we are at Sutta 29, the Kosalan. The Buddha said, monks, as far as the Kasi Kosalans extend, as far as the rule of Pasanadi, the Kosalan Raja, extends, therein Pasanadi, the Kosalan Raja, is reckoned chief. Yet monks, even for Pasanadi, the Kosalan Raja, there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. On feeling revulsion, his interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. Monks, as far as the moon and sun move in their course and light up all quarters with their radiance, so far extends the thousandfold world system. Therein are 1,000 moons, 1,000 suns, 1,000 Simarus, lords of mountains. Therein are 1,000 Jambudipas, 1,000 Apparagoyanas, 1,000 Uttarakurus, 1,000 Pubbhavideha, 4,000 mighty oceans, 4,000 mighty rulers, 1,000 four great kings, 1,000 heavens of the 33, 1,000 Yama worlds, 1,000 Tusita heavens, 1,000 heavens of the Devas who delight in creation, Nimanarati, 1,000 heavens of those Devas who delight in others' creations, Paranimitta Vasavati, and 1,000 Brahma worlds. As far monks as the thousandfold world system extends, therein the great Brahma is reckoned chief. Yet even for the great Brahma monks there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. In him so feeling revulsion, interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. I stop here for a while to comment. This is quite an interesting sutta. Talks about the thousandfold world systems. This is what nowadays in modern science we call a galaxy. This is also mentioned in the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 3.80, where the Buddha talked about the thousandfold world systems. And then he also talks about the thousand middle world system. And then he also talks about the thousand great world system. So these are some of the things that the Buddha has seen 2,500 years ago. And even up to now, science has not yet discovered. This world system, the Buddha says, one world system consists of one sun, and that sun is also what we call a star. So if we look into the sky at night, we can see the stars, and each one is a world system. And so the small world system is a thousandfold system where you have 1,000 stars. And 1,000 of these 1,000 world systems, 1,000 of them makes up the 1,000 middle world system. And 1,000 of these middle world systems makes up the 1,000 great world system. You see, the Buddha's psychic power was so great, he could see all this. And here it says that the thousandfold world system consists of 1,000 moons, 1,000 suns, 1,000 Mount Simarus, then 1,000 of these four continents called Jambudipa, Apparagoyana, Uttarakuru, and Pubbhavideha. And These are separated by 4 oceans. 4 oceans. Each one world system has 4 oceans, 4 continents. And these science has not been able to see, possibly because these continents might be fine material continents, just like our human eyes cannot see devas, heavenly beings, and our human eyes cannot see ghosts, but people with psychic power are able to see. And then the Buddha talks about 4,000 mighty rulers. This one, I think elsewhere is not mentioned. It might be 4,000 mighty rulers means each world system would have 4 mighty rulers or great kings. And these might refer, for example, in our world system, which belongs to Jambudvipa, might be talking about the universal monarch. That means the king who rules the whole earth. So, because there are 4 continents, there might be 4 world rulers. These world rulers, they appear once in a long time, not always. Then after that, 1,004 great kings. This one in Pali is Chatu Maharajika. Hokkien we call Si Tai Kim Kong. And this is the lowest heaven above the lowest heaven. It is very near to our human realm. And then above that is the heavens of the 33. The Pali is Tavatimsa heaven, where Sakadeva Raja resides, King Kong resides. And then after that you have the Yama heaven, then you have the Tusita heaven, then you have the Nimana Rati heaven, where the blessings is so great that they can wish for anything they want, and it just appears they can create whatever they want. And then above that is Paranimita Vasavati. They use others to create what they want. These are 6 heavens in the sensual realm. Because every world system consists of 3 realms. The lowest is the sensual or desire realm, where you have male and female, and then you're dominated by lust. And then above that is the jhana planes, form realm, and then above that is the formless realm. So now, when we talk about the desire realm, the lowest, there are 6 heavens directly above us. Then here is also mentioned the Brahma worlds, 1,000 Brahma worlds. Now, so here, when the Buddha talks about 1,000-fold world system, here he says, great Brahma is the chief, is the greatest being in the 1,000-fold world system. Actually, there are higher heavens. So why does the Buddha mention great Brahma? Because the great Brahmas, Maha-Brahmas, their spiritual might is so powerful that their light can shine 1,000 world systems. And then they can even shine 2,000, 10,000, I think even 100,000 world systems. But that is as far as the small world system, 1,000-fold world system, their light can shine only a little bit, possibly a bit more than 1,000-fold systems, but it cannot extend up to the middle world system, the 1,000 middle world system. That's why, as far as the 1,000-fold world system, the highest is Brahma, Pantian Ong. So, if you talk about higher heavens, then they supersede the 1,000-fold world system, like the second jhana realm, the Abhasara, Devas. Their light goes beyond this 1,000-fold world system. So, As far as the thousandfold world system, this Maha-Brahma, he is the chief. And in other suttas, you find that the Buddha mentions that he is like a ball of light, great ball of light. And when he wants to visit, for example, Sakadeva Raja, this ball of light they can see in the long distance flying very fast towards them. And they know it's Brahma coming, so they will stand up out of respect. And then when Mahabrahma arrives, he will change his shape. So since he wants to talk to King Kong, Sakadeva Raja, he will make his form just like one of them, and then he'll talk to them, and after that he will leave, the ball of light will leave again. So this is quite interesting, this description of the thousandfold world system. So here the Buddha says, even the great Mahabrahma, the great Brahma, there is change and reverse. That means there is impermanence. Even the Mahabrahma, so great heavenly being, one day must die. So the Buddha says, because of that, we should feel revulsion towards even the thousandfold world system, and not to talk about lower beings. And then the Buddha continues. There comes a time, monks, when this world system contracts. As the world system contracts, beings are generally reborn as radiant ones. This is the Abhasara heaven. There they are made as if of mind, feeding on joy, self-radiant, faring through the air or the sky, in splendor abiding. For a long, long time they stand fast. Monks, when the world system contracts, it is the radiant devas who are reckoned chief. Yet, for the radiant devas there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. In him so feeling revulsion, interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. I'll stop here for a while again. This is another interesting point that the suttas talk about, that the world systems can contract. And in some other sutta, the Buddha mentions world systems, these galaxies, they can contract, and after they can also expand. There's a time when it expands, there's a time when it contracts. Now in the suttas, the Buddha doesn't actually explain clearly what is meant by the world system expanding and contracting. But now science informs us that when they look into the stars, when we look into the sky, we see these stars. Now these stars are moving away from us, So now scientists are wondering whether these stars, when they move away from us, will they continue moving indefinitely, or will they come to a stop? Now according to the Buddha, they will come to a stop. They will expand, the stars will expand, and then after a certain time it will stop. And then after that it will contract. This is what he's talking about, but it contracts. Now when it contracts, what happens? The stars will come closer and closer and closer and closer to each other. Now in the suttas, the Buddha says, one day the world will come to an end. And the Buddha also says very clearly, when the world comes to an end, what happens? Now we have one sun near us, right? You can see one sun near us. And because of the sun, we feel warm. The sun gives us the warmth, right? Now, the Buddha says after a long time, a second sun will appear. It will come near to us. When the second sun comes near to us, our whole world, our earth begins to become overheated. And plants start to die, animals start to die, human beings start to die. So after a long time, a third sun will appear. Then a fourth sun, then even the rivers will dry up, the lakes will dry up. And then the ocean starts to become shallower and shallower and shallower. Then the fourth sun, then the fifth sun, then the sixth sun. When the seventh sun appears, the world will burst into flames. Our earth will burst into flames, and it will burn until and there's nothing left. When it burns, there's nothing left. And this fire will go up to the Brahma heaven. So that's why even Brahma heaven also is unsafe. So when the Buddha mentions this, then we can see it is very probable why this thing happens is as just now I said that the world system is contracting. The world system is contracting, and all the stars are coming closer and closer and closer to each other. So when they come too close to us, then the effect of the heat on us and the beings start to die. So when they all come together, then they burn, and then they form a solid mass. When they form a solid mass, it becomes so dense, so solid, that this is the thing that probably becomes the black hole. Nowadays, scientists talk about the black hole in outer space, and this black hole is supposed to be a dense, very extremely dense mass of substance, and it is so dense, it acts like a magnet. Anything that flies near it is pulled into it. It's like a big body attracting a small body. So it is so dense that even its own light, it actually has fire. It's like a star burning. But because it is so huge a mass, that the light, the photons, cannot be emitted. As soon as the light goes out, it is pulled back. The light goes out and it's pulled back. So it becomes a black hole. So these things, strangely enough, it's only in the Buddha Suttas that you find these explanations on the real cosmology, on our world systems. You don't find other religions explaining this. Only our Sama Sambuddha. Psychic power was so great, he could see all these things. He could explain all these things. So when the world system contracts and it forms into this dense mass, then all the beings die. So when the beings die, they have to get to the second jhana realm, the second jhana heaven, which is the Abhasara heaven. That's why the Buddha said, at that time, beings are generally reborn as radiant ones in the Abhasara heavens. Even they, the radiant devas, they will also die one day. Everything is impermanent. So the Buddha said, when you see this, that even these so high devas can die, then you feel revulsion. You feel then you feel revulsion towards the high, then not to speak of the lower things. Now the Buddha talks about the kasinas. The Buddha said, monks, there are these 10 ranges of the kasinas. What 10? I just stop here a while to comment. These kasinas are objects that are used in meditation, and they were used before the Buddha's time, and was also used by the Buddha and his disciples. What are these devices? These kasinas? They are earth, water, fire, wind, and then the colors blue, yellow, red, white, and then space, and then consciousness. These are the 10 objects of meditation. If you meditate on these objects of meditation, you can get into deep states of concentration. And because they are very useful objects, even the Buddha and his disciples use them. So the Buddha said, what are these 10? One person perceives the earth kasina as above, below, across, undivided, immeasurable. Another person perceives the water kasina, another the fire kasina, another the wind kasina, another blue, another yellow, another red, another white kasina, another the space kasina, another perceives the consciousness kasina as above, below, across, as undivided, immeasurable. These are the 10 ranges of the kasinas. Of these 10 ranges of the kasinas, this is the topmost, when a person perceives the consciousness kasina as above, below, across, undivided, immeasurable. There are indeed monks, persons who thus perceive. Yet to persons thus perceiving, there is change and reverse. So seeing, the Aryan disciple feels revulsion. In him thus feeling revulsion, his interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. I stop here for a moment to comment. Here, when a person meditates on these 10 kasinas, the Buddha said the highest is the consciousness kasina. When you meditate on the consciousness kasina until your consciousness becomes immeasurable, boundless. So the mind becomes boundless. So a person who can attain this, he can know what is happening on another side of the world and all that. So that is why this is the highest of the kasinas. And even for such a person, he one day also will grow old and he will die. So that's why the Buddha said, when you realize this, then you feel revulsion for the world. Just one other point I want to mention. In one of the suttas, the Buddha said that time has no beginning, time has no end. And also the Buddha said that space is boundless. And he also said that consciousness can be cultivated to be boundless. So now science has agreed, scientists like this, Professor Stephen Hawkins, he says that time has no beginning and time has no end, just like what the Buddha said. He also said that space is boundless. But scientists have not yet discovered that consciousness can be boundless if you are able to cultivate it. Then the Buddha continues, monks, there are these 8 spheres or stations of mastery. This is the Abhiba Yatana. What 8? A certain one, being conscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be limited, fair or foul. Having mastered them with the thought, I know, I see, he is thus conscious. This is the first station of mastery. A certain person, being conscious of material quality in his own self, sees objects external to himself to be immeasurable, fair or foul. Having mastered them, he is conscious. This is the second station of mastery. A certain one, being unconscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be limited, fair or foul, to be immeasurable, fair or foul. Having mastered them, he is conscious. These are the third and fourth stations of mastery. A certain one, being unconscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be blue, of the color blue, blue to look at, blue as a shimmering mass. Just as, for instance, the flower of flax is blue, of the color blue, blue to look at, a shimmering mass of blue. Or just as Benares muslin, smooth on both sides, a muslin cloth, smooth on both sides, is blue. So blue are the external objects that he sees. Having mastered them, he is thus conscious. This is the fifth station of mastery. A certain one, being unconscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself as yellow, of the color yellow, yellow to look at, a shimmering mass of yellow. Just as, for instance, the Anguttara flower is yellow, or just as that Benares muslin cloth, smooth on both sides, is yellow. So yellow are the external objects that he sees. Having mastered them, he is thus conscious. This is the 6th station of mastery. A certain one, being unconscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be blood red, of color blood red to look at, a shimmering mass of blood red, just as the Bandhu Jivaka flower is blood red, or that Benares muslin cloth is blood red. So are the external objects that he sees blood red. Having mastered them, he is thus conscious. This is the 7th station of mastery. A certain one, being unconscious of material quality in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be white in color, white to look at, a shimmering mass of white. Just as, for instance, the star of healing is white in color, white to look at, a shimmering mass of white. Or just as that Benares muslin cloth, smooth on both sides, is white. Even so, white are the external objects that he sees. Having mastered them with the thought, I know, I see, he is thus conscious. This is the 8th station of mastery. These monks are the 8 stations of mastery. Now monks, of these 8 stations of mastery, the topmost is that in which a certain one, being unconscious of material qualities in his own person, sees objects external to himself to be white in color, white to look at, a shimmering mass of white, and having mastered them with the thought, I know, I see, is thus conscious. Indeed, monks, there are beings thus conscious. Yet for beings thus conscious, there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. So feeling revulsion, his interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. I'll stop here for a moment. So of all these stations of mastery, the highest is supposed to be a person, he's not conscious of his own body, but he is conscious of white. Everywhere is white. So even for him, one day he will grow old and die. So if you realize that, then you can feel revulsion for the world. Then the Buddha continues, monks, there are these 4 modes of progress. What 4? The painful mode of progress with sluggish intuition or knowledge. The painful mode of progress with swift intuition. The pleasant mode of progress with sluggish intuition. The pleasant mode with swift intuition. These are the 4. Now monks, of these 4 modes of progress, the topmost is the pleasant mode with swift intuition. There are indeed beings who have thus progressed, yet for beings who have thus progressed, there is change and reverse. So seeing monks, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. His interest in the topmost fades, not to speak of the low. I stop here for a moment to comment. These 4 types of progress, when you say painful mode, it means a person who is cultivating the holy path, he feels a lot of suffering, and this is a person whose lust, anger and delusion are strong. So if a person, for example a monk, his lust, anger and delusion are strong, when he practices the holy life, he feels a lot of suffering. And then this, if on the other hand, if his lust, ill will or anger and delusion are very minimal, then he doesn't feel suffering or painful. In fact, he feels happy, pleasant mode of progress. Then this sluggish and swift intuition means the ability to progress slow or fast. Sluggish is slow, swift is fast. And this is dependent on the 5 faculties, faith, energy, recollection or sati, then concentration and wisdom. And out of these 5, the one that's important, I think, is energy, energetic effort. If a person puts a lot of effort, then he will progress much faster than a person with little effort. Then the Buddha continues, monks, there are these 4 modes of perception. What 4? A certain one perceives the limited, another the extensive, another the immeasurable, and another perceives there is nothing at all, the sphere of nothingness. These are the 4. Now monks, of these 4, the topmost is the perception, there is nothing at all, the sphere of nothingness. There are indeed beings who thus perceive, yet for such there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion, etc. I'll just stop here for a moment. When you talk about the limited, this one is more like a monk who cultivates until he attains the light within him, so he can have a kind of psychic power where he can see. So the limited might refer to him seeing all the things in his kuti, in his hut. He's only able to see, his light can only shine within his hut, so he can see only the things in his hut, even with his eyes closed. And then the extensive is like he's able to see outside, even with his eyes closed. He can see outside, say for example, within the monastery where he's staying. And then the immeasurable refers to much further. He can see for a very, very far distance. And the 4th one, he perceives there is nothing at all. What it means is that he realizes everything that is conjured in the world is actually conjured by consciousness, conjured by the mind. So it's like a dream like that. There is nothing real. It's kind of nothing in the whole world. It's all just like a dream. So out of these 4, this last one, the sphere of nothingness, is the highest. Even for such a person, he will die one day. So when you realize this, then you feel revulsion for the world. Then the Buddha continued, monks of external sect followers who hold views, this view, were I not then, it would not now be mine. I'll not become, it will not become in me. This view is the topmost. Of one who holds this view, monks, this may be looked for, that feeling of no disgust in becoming will not become for him, and that feeling of disgust at ending, becoming, will not become for him. Indeed, monks, there are beings who hold this view, yet for such beings there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion. I stop here to comment. It's now that part where the Buddha says, of one who holds this view, monks, this may be looked for, or this may be expected. That feeling of no disgust in becoming will not become for him. This means that he will have disgust in becoming or existence. And then that feeling of disgust at ending becoming will not become for him. That means he has no disgust in ending becoming or in ending existence. So as to that saying, were I not then, it would not now be mine. I'll not become, you will not become in me. The first sentence, were I not then, what he means is, if I did not exist before, it would not now be mine. This body would not be mine now. In other words, if I did not exist before, this body would not be mine. Then the second sentence, I'll not become, it will not become in me. What it means is, I'll not become, this body will not become in me. In other words, in future, I will not become, I will not exist. And then this body will not exist also. So the first line is talking about the past. That because we have existed in the past, that's why this body is now existing, this body is now mine. But in the future, I will practice to get out of samsara so that I will not exist again and I will not have this body again. So this, a person who has such a view, he would have disgust in existence, and then he would have no disgust in ending existence. In other words, he will feel revulsion for the world. Even such a person, one day he will die. So the learned Aryan disciple, realizing this, feel revulsion for the world. Then the Buddha continues, monks, there are some recluses and Brahmins who proclaim purification as the greatest blessing. Of those who do so, topmost is he who, passing beyond the sphere of nothingness, attains the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, and so abides. They teach Dhamma for the thorough comprehension of that, for the realization of that. Indeed, monks, there are beings who make this claim, yet for those who do so, there is change and reverse. So seeing, the learned Aryan disciple feels revulsion, etc. So here, Buddha is talking about a person who can attain this base of neither perception nor non-perception. This is supposed to be the highest jhana you can attain, the highest meditative state, other than the cessation of consciousness or cessation of feeling and perception. Even for such a person, there is change and reverse. Then the Buddha continues, monks, there are some recluses and Brahmins who proclaim as chief Nibbana in this visible state or this life. Of those who so proclaim, the topmost achievement is the liberation without grasping, by seeing as it really is, the arising and the ceasing, the attraction and the danger, and the escape from the 6 spheres of contact, Passa Yatana. I, monks, am one who make this claim and announcement, and some recluses and Brahmins accuse me of unreality, hollowness, falsehood and untruth, saying, Gautama, the recluse, proclaims not the full comprehension of passions, proclaims not the full comprehension of objective forms, proclaims not the full comprehension of feelings. But monks, it is just of passions that I do proclaim full comprehension. It is just of objective forms, of feelings, that I do proclaim full comprehension. In this same visible state or life, hungering no more, vain, grown cool, do I proclaim the full Nibbana without grasping. So the Buddha says that that's the end of the sutta. The Buddha says that he teaches full liberation and he teaches the full comprehension of passions, forms and feelings. So that's the end of the sutta. So here the sutta was talking about different things. So I think probably there's no need to recapitulate.